Okay, school is back in, so you know what that means? Time to do the video blog. Alrighty, in my fourth period math class with Miss King, we just started direct variation today. We haven't got in much detail with it. However, it's important for you to know the formula, which is y equals kx. Now, that's the formula. To find k, excuse me, you have to look at it just like you would a one-step equation. If it was y equals, or if it was 20 equals 5x, you would divide by 5, right? So the formula is y equals kx. K stands for the constant. To find that constant, you have to divide. Now, for my fifth period math class, it's very important. Parents, the students will have a test on Wednesday. Today, they got the study guide that looks like this. They should have brought it home to show you tonight. I'm going to go ahead and go over the answers. They were assigned questions 1 through 10. Number 1 says, explain the difference between congruent figures and similar figures. Well, congruent figures are the exact same shape and size. Similar figures are the exact same shape, but not necessarily the same size. And both also have congruent angles. Number 2 says, what are corresponding sides and what are corresponding angles? Well, both corresponding just means matching. Matching sides and matching angles. That makes them corresponding. For example, if you had a triangle, the base, or if you had two triangles, the base of both triangles would be the matching sides. Number 3, how do you prove two figures are similar? Well, first they have to be the same shape, as we already said. The angles have to be congruent, and the corresponding sides have to be proportional. What does proportional mean? That means when you set it up as a ratio or a fraction, when you simplify that ratio or fraction, they would have to simplify to the exact same thing. Number 4, what is a dilation? A dilation, which is what we talked about today, a dilation is an enlargement or reduction of a figure. How is a dilation completed on the coordinate plane? Well, you multiply the coordinates times the scale factor. Number 5, what is the relationship between scale factor and the perimeters of similar figures? Well, the ratio of two similar figures' perimeter will always be the exact same as the scale factor. What about scale factor and the areas of similar figures? Well, you take the area of the original figure and multiply it times the scale factor squared. And that's how you would get the area of the dilated figure. Now, this is very important. Number 6, this chart here. Hopefully you can get a good look at that. Okay. The first one says the type of dilation, there is none because the figures are congruent. Well, if they're congruent, the scale factor equals 1. And I'm going from left to right here. The percent of dilation would be 100% because there is no dilation. And that as a decimal would be 1 or 1.0. Now the next row says enlargement. An enlargement would have to have a scale factor, and actually it's a little confusing on the study guide. It looks like that says less than 1. It should be greater than 1. And enlargement, the scale factor is greater than 1. The percent of the dilation must be greater than 100%. And the dilation as a decimal would be greater than 1.0. You go down to the next row. A reduction. The scale factor must be less than 1. The percent dilation should be less than 100%. And the dilation as a decimal should be less than 1.0. If you keep looking below that, if the dilation is 30%, based on what we just discussed, the figure is a reduction. The scale factor, you simply set up that percent as a fraction, so you have 30% always goes over 100, and then you simplify. So you would have 30 over 100 simplifies down to 3 over 10. That would be the scale factor. Now, if the scale factor is 110%, the figure is you got it, an enlargement because it's over 100%. Once again, you make it into a ratio over 100, and the scale factor would be 110 over 100, or simplify it down to 11 over 10. And again, parents and students, I've stated several times that you must know how to simplify fractions to do well on this test. Next, if a dilation is 1.5, the figure is an enlargement, because once again, that's over 1. If you go back to the table, we said that it would have to be more than 1. So 1.5 is more than 1, so it's an enlargement. And then, as a scale factor, you can have 1.5 over 1, or no, excuse me. You can change that 1.5. Well, yeah, actually, I'm sorry. You can leave it as 1.5 over 1. Or if you were to change that 1.5 into a percent, it would be 150% over 100. And then you would simplify that down to 3 over 2, which is the same as 1.5. Finally, if the dilation is 100%, the figure is congruent. Okay, number 7. Number 7 is you're setting up proportions. You're going from the first figure to the second figure. So as you can see, 16 corresponds with 4, so you have 16 over 4. And since you started with the first triangle, equals x over 6. Now that's very important. You can't say 16 over 4 equals 6 over x. If you started with this first triangle, 16 over 4, then you have to come back here and say x over 6. 16 over 4 equals x over 6. As you can see, I simplified 16 over 4. You don't have to do that, but it makes it easier when you multiply. And then you cross multiply, and you have 24 equals x. So the answer to number 7 is 24. For number 8, determine the scale factor from the reduction of the first figure to the second figure. Then determine the enlargement of the second figure to the first figure. Well, to be a reduction, as we talked about in class today, the numerator has to be less than the denominator. So a reduction here would be 3 over 15. That goes back to scale factor, which is model over actual. And that simplifies to 1 over 5. And then that's a reduction. If you wanted to do the enlargement, that would be 5 over 1. Number 9. One vertex of a pentagon placed on a coordinate plane has the coordinates of 4 and 6. A says if the pentagon is dilated 250%, what are the new coordinates? Well, you simply turn the percent into a decimal, and then you multiply it times each coordinate. And to turn a percent into a decimal, you move left 2 times. So that will make 250% 2.5. 2.5 times 4 is 10. 2.5 times 6 is 15. So simply do the same thing with B. Turn 20% into 0.2 and multiply it times 4 and times 6 to get your answer. Finally, for number 10, find the area of the smaller similar triangle. All you have to do is solve for x. You would set it up as 24 over x equals 36 over 12. You can simplify 36 over 12 to 3 over 1. You cross multiply, and you have 3x equals 24. That's a one-step equation. And then you divide by 3 on both sides, and x equals 8. After you get x To find area is length times width, which will be 12 times 8, which is 96. So again, that's numbers 1 through 10. We'll finish the rest of the study guide in class tomorrow. This is SuperLearning123 signing off.